Okay, we're up. We're up and we're out there. Up and at
Yeah.
'em.
There's a new thrill on Coogan's Bluff. A horse fight killer that's rough and tough. Fans by the million out singing his praise. Say, hey, Willie Mays. Got it on like DiMaggio, runs like cop. Could this be speaker back on the job? Makes Dippy Dippy with his magical plays. Say, hey, Willie Mays. In New York town, believe it or not, when the Bennett flag is raising, the Duke will crown new Prince of Swat. If we keep on amazing. I'm not a prophet or a prophet's son, but he'll be the
Here
daddy.
you go, Michael. There's a little something to get us going this morning on this sad morning for those
For
of us who are
baseball.
baseball fans or just fans of people in a time gone by. Willie Mays passing away yesterday. They couldn't keep him open. They couldn't keep him going for the Rickwood game.
Actually, he had announced, it was a headline just 2 days ago in ESPN, that he wasn't going to go.
Right.
And that didn't surprise me because he's been frail for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If you can
mean,
imagine Willie Mays being frail, and no one can, no one in the right man can visualize Willie Mays and say, oh, yeah, the frail guy. No, no, that wasn't the way he was. In fact, the funny thing about that song that you played was when he was a rookie, when he came up from Birmingham, he was a sensation. Yes, he went 1 for 21, but Leo DeRocher took him aside and said, you're the center fielder, you got the job, to go out there and play like you know how. Which I don't know if they give you those talks anymore. They just say, work it out in AAA. Let me know when you feel better.
yeah. That's why they moved the AAA clubs close to the major league club, so
Yeah.
it's just a cheap bus ride down I-5.
The funny thing is, not that many guys in those days came up and as a rookie, as a walk on, as the new face in town, was a sensation. Because in New York, to be a sensation, you have to be a sensation. You have to be sensational. And they had three teams to choose from. If you didn't like the Giants, you could have the Yankees, you could have the Dodgers. You could figure out a way to like baseball without ever going to a Giants game. You still had two other teams to play with. And
Right,
even
and
with that,
all with great center fielders, all with marquee center fielders in Duke Snyder in Brooklyn and Mickey Mantle in the Bronx.
well, you know
So,
what Mickey said? Mickey said, well, there were two of us, and then there was Willie.
well, and I know we'll talk about this a little later, but that's it to me. Well, let's talk about me about Willie for a while because there's so many good memories of Willie Mays when we were kids. Now you're a little older than me, but not much. But when we were kids, Willie Mays, just the name meant something.
It did. It still does.
Not just in baseball, but in life. It was his card was always more valuable than anybody else's. If you got a pack of baseball cards and you got a Willie Mays, even though he didn't play for New York, you still held that card back.
Oh yeah.
You took that card out of the pack.
You
There's
weren't
three
going to get
cards you
any.
took out of the pack. You took out the Willie Mays. You took out the Mickey Mantle, and you usually took out one to the other. Whitey Ford was one that you would always take out,
Or
and
maybe
then of
Yogi.
course you take any of the Mets out,
Right, of course.
because that was your home team.
You weren't going to gamble. You weren't going to trade with those.
Right? You weren't gonna flip down a Elio Chacon.
By the way, Elio Jacone is on my list of things to talk about because he got into a fight with Willie Mays with a play at second base and was booed, of course, mercilessly for striking Willie Mays. But the fact is, Willie picked him up by his belt and slammed him on the ground by second base. It was easy to do. Willie Mays,
Well,
the man who said, when you play the Dodgers, there will be blood.
let's start with you because you had the first part of his career. I had, of course, the second part of his career, and maybe the most emotional part where Mrs. Joan Payson, who owned the Mets back in 1972, knew that Horace Stoneman wanted to get rid of Willie Mays. He wanted to get rid of his salary. He didn't want to get rid of Willie. Willie, you
Right.
can stick around, but we just don't want to pay you. At that time, I think it was $160,000 a year,
Which was big money in those days.
which was big money. And, Joan Payson, who loved the Giants and put down the money to bring the Mets to New York to open up the franchise, said, we'll take him and we'll pay him and we'll give him a 10-year guaranteed contract at $50,000 a year. But you witnessed in person and on television the actual playing of Willie Mays. What made him a great player back to that point? What was it like, Michael, watching this guy every day?
It didn't make any sense because he didn't throw the ball like anybody, and he didn't catch the ball like anybody. And for all his offensive power and finesse and records, to see Willie play the outfield and to see him just run from one place to the other was an extraordinary event. He didn't run like anybody else. His gait, it looks like he had sore feet, but he didn't. He had that pigeon-toed gait of his that was a lope, and then they said his first step was like lightning, because then he was off. And I definitely remember a day as a young kid at Seal Stadium before Candlestick was built. It was a day game, 1 o'clock game, and they had what is known in baseball as a high sky. The ball goes up, but where it goes, you don't know. You know it went up there, you know it's up there, but you can't see it. It's a helpless feeling. And the right fielder for the Giants that day and under that high sky was a player named Willie Kirkland, who was with the Giants for a while. The ball goes up as it's a gimme pop fly. Everybody in the stadium can see where it's going. Everybody but Willie Kirkland, who does the international sign of distress. His hands go up like, I don't got it. I don't see anything. You look to the sky and you just put your hands out. Willie Mays took off, and he did two things. One, he never hesitated for an instant. He never said, I wonder if he's got it. I wonder if he can see it. He didn't wonder anything. He sped toward right field from center field, ran out from under his hat like he always did. I don't know how Willie managed to do that, but for big plays, Willie would leave his hat behind. It's as if he wore it sort of on the back of his head, so when he took off at top speed, when he gave it everything, that hat didn't have a chance, not a chance in hell of staying on his head. He ran out from under it and all the way from center field to right field at top speed, pulling into Willie Kirkland's neighborhood, and of course made the catch. The interesting thing about it is we were all wondering, is he going to get there? The guy who had no doubt was Willie Mays. When he took off, he had already caught the ball. He knew where it was going. He knew how fast he had to go. He knew where he had to be. And he knew what the end result was going to be. It was all mapped out in front of him instantly and with perfection. And for all his power, for all his fame with the bat, to see Willie Mays play baseball was to see him in center field, where he owned the territory. There was no place you could put it, no place you could hit it, nothing you could do with that ball that was going to mystify him or leave him wanting for the tools to go get it. And that's probably something that today we have sluggers, lots of sluggers, big guys, 6'6" that stand in the batter's box and knock the ball from here to Toledo. And that's a wonderful new aspect of the game. But Willie Mays dominated in the field as much as he dominated at the plate. You couldn't put it anywhere in play without Willie Mays taking a shot at you. And he threw out Don Drysdale at first base on a line drive to center field because he saw Don Drysdale take off down the line to first base with his head down. You put your head down on Willie Mays, he's going to surprise you with the results. And he loved the fact that he made that decision instantly on what Drysdale did with the first two steps out of the batter's box, which he observed from center field before the ball ever got to him. And he knew when Drysdale took off to first base in that manner, and with the ball coming to him on two bounces like it did, that he had a shot for him at first base and threw him out at first base. And it's that level of mastery that proved itself in the field time and time again.
And it was always interesting to me because you had so many kids who tried to emulate Willie.
You tried the basket catch. You can't do it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
cannot do it.
I tried the basket catch, and I've seen professional baseball players try the basket catch, and it very rarely works. As a matter of fact, one of the only people I ever saw pull it off well was Junior. And he didn't use it all the time, but every once in a while he stood out there and he put that glove down and he got it.
The ball's got to be right. You have to know when the ball's in the air if it's suitable for a basket catch.
Yeah, if you ask somebody why does that guy make $5 million a year for playing baseball, that's the answer.
Yeah.
That he can tell where to put that glove in front of him, where that ball will fall into that glove.
And it's a beautiful thing to see.
And he can make it look easy.
It's a dangerous play.
It's a dangerous play because there's so many things that can go wrong. But I remember seeing, I want to say, I was at a game in 65, maybe 64, 65. You know, Giants and Dodgers games were the events at Shea Stadium. You know, less than 10 years they're out in New York. So it was weird because it was like a home game for the Mets, but it was also a home game for the Dodgers and the Giants.
Yeah, because the fans were still there.
Right. So you would have people that would be cheering, which was foreign to me at the time, but people that would be cheering against the Mets in the ballpark. And I remember, I can't remember who it was, but I remember somebody hit a long fly ball. And, you know, it's 410 out to center. And Willie is in center. And he turns around and he takes off. And my God, I'm looking and saying, there is just no way. You know,
plus he was 39 or 40 years old.
Yeah, there's no way that he's gonna get to this ball. And he's going to say he's playing it off he's going to play it off the carom, off the wall.
Right.
And Lord Almighty, if he doesn't just stick his glove up, and you know, there was no TV monitors or anything in those days. All you could see out in center field was the glove go up.
Yep. He knew where that ball was going.
And I don't know that he ever looked back at it. He just got it and swung around and casually threw it back in. And I hadn't seen the only person I'd seen do anything close to that in watching baseball at that time was Roberto Clemente.
Right.
He was the only other player that I had seen that matched those proportions of being able.
Russ Hodges used to call the games for the Giants in New York and in San Francisco. He used to call that a circus catch because it's the kind of back you only see at the circus. It's not made for baseball. These are for trained contortionists and people who can swing from the great trapeze of life. It's not for humans to play ball like that. It's only for the contortionists and the circus performers.
As many people, always will laud, and we'll get into them in a minute, his offensive stats. Willie, if you talk to him, would always tell you that the key to playing baseball is defense.
Yep.
As gaudy as outfield stats as he had, he was, without a doubt, a defense-first guy.
Golden Glove 12 times, and they didn't even start the Golden Glove until he had played for 6 years. More Golden Gloves than any other center fielder in baseball history.
Just a phenomenal player. What and what he also did too, Michael, and I remember this from New York, and I don't know how this played out in San Francisco because it was a quite a different city at that time. But he had that ability to connect with people.
Say hey.
Yeah, he said. Matter of fact, he said not just to say, but the photos of him getting out of his car and playing stickball
Oh yeah.
with the kids in the street. Now, to be fair, he said that playing stickball was partially responsible for him being able to hit the curveball
Huh.
because he bounced that ball down, and when it came back up, it came like a curveball.
Came in an angle, yeah.
Came in an angle. He said that was one of the reasons he was such a good curveball hitter.
I don't know what kind of pitch you can throw him that he couldn't hit. I don't know what kind of pitch you got.
Well, he was the original toilet player. If you're home and you're watching a ball game and Willie Mays comes up to bat, you don't go to the toilet.
You don't go. You can hold it.
You can hold it. And usually he'll get you out of there quick.
It's not gonna take forever.
Right. But he was just and he connected with people in such a way. He was able to at a time. Now again, the different time. Ball players made much similar money to regular people did back then. More than regular people, but similar. But in the same stratosphere, not today where they get paid in telephone numbers. But Willie always seemed to have that connection with people. Obviously, Jackie Robinson had paved the way for him in maybe lessening some of the insults and some of the stuff that he had to deal with. And it probably made it a lot easier for him in New York. So, but it wasn't the same way in San Francisco when he got out there in '58, was it?
Well, San Francisco was not a major league town. They had the Seals, they had baseball, they had the DiMaggios, but no Black Stars were coming to San Francisco to play baseball. And none of them were making enough money to live at Seacrest out where the rich white people lived. And Willie decided to live in town, and that turned out to be a mistake. A mistake that he made because he didn't read the tea leaves accurately, and a mistake that the city made because it was such an insult to a great player to treat him in that way. And he lived down in the peninsula for the rest of his life. The welcome was, I was excited. I was over the moon that Major League Baseball was coming to San Francisco, but the city, not unlike Seattle, was saying, "What, we don't need this. We don't need all this hoopla. We don't need players coming to town. We don't need rich black people coming into our neighborhoods. We don't need a guy with a Cadillac telling us that he's Willie Mays and he's the new outfielder. What is that? What is an outfielder? That's not what San Francisco's about." The old guard did not welcome him, even though part of the old guard owned the team and managed the team. There was an adjustment period that was before Willie became a deity. But the fans knew right away what they had. And it was what was built into the Giants and Willie Mays coming was Don Drysdale and the Dodgers were coming. And Don Drysdale would throw Willie's Adam's apple every time he was up. Don Drysdale put Willie on his back so many times that you couldn't count him. Same with Willie McCovey. And we were saying, look what this jerk is doing to our star, to our angel, to our extraordinary superhuman being. You can't throw Willie Mays. You can't play like that. You can't treat. You can't come to Candlestick Park and treat us this way. The love-hate relationship with the love the Giants, hate the Dodgers was total and all-consuming for me. And if we lost to the Dodgers, I'd be in a funk for 2 days. The the war between those two teams in those days, Koufax and Mays, were hard to describe in terms of the level of seriousness. Yes, there was somebody. If you slid into second base, they were coming spikes high, and you better figure it out. And Willie used to drive people crazy when he was on the base path. One of the things we've talked about is he has speed, yes, but he didn't use it to just steal bases. He used it to steal a base when the time was right, when the play was necessary, when the run was when the Giants were down. It was an extraordinary experience to see him run, because there's no way on earth to imagine how many bases he would have stolen if he had been trying to steal them like Maury Wills, where you steal 100 a year. And Willie knew that you could get hurt sliding. He had a way of sliding. He would slide and come up on his spikes. He would end his slide on his feet. I don't know how he did it. He would come up out of the slide. And the main reason for that was, if that ball got away from the second baseman, from the shortstop who took the throw, he was gone. He already had a plan to turn. Most people, when they steal second base, they slide and the play's over. Not for Willie. He slide, come up on his spikes, and be ready to go to third if you weren't ready.
Right.
If that ball got away, he was taking another base and leaving you behind.
It was always that was always an amazing play to me when he would do that. He left no. I mean, he was the ultimate professional, because he played the game every moment looking for the smallest advantage he could have.
And he knew where that advantage would come from. If that guy does this, I'm doing that.
Right. Whether it was however you were able to see it, whether it was a defensive advantage, whether it was an offensive advantage, no matter what kind of advantage it was just an incredible. He could always find it. He just had this vision of the game.
Yep.
That was unequaled, I thought, in anything.
He was the play-by-play guy. I don't know if you saw this in the Tim Kirchin article that was on ESPN.com, which was lengthy and had a lot of quotes from players all around the baseball world giving their views and their memories of Willie Mays. And one of them was Dave Fleming. No, I'm sorry, Dwayne Kuiper, who does the play-by-play for the Giants on radio and TV, had Willie in the booth as his color announcer for an Easter game. And there was a play at third base, and the Giants got thrown out of the inning and lost the game by a run, the run that they needed at third base, which they couldn't get there. And Willie Mays said, "Jesus Christ," for his commentary after the game. And Dwayne said, "Well, we'll be back on this Easter Sunday with another few words from Reverend Willie Mays." But the point I'm trying to make is not that Willie was inappropriate on the radio. It's that he couldn't believe that the Giants messed up a play to score a run. In his mind, it had already been done. You go to third, you score the run. But baseball is a frustrating game, and if you love the Mets and you love the Giants, you know how many times there's been a play at third that you thought was going to happen, which didn't, and it changed the game.
Yeah.
Well, Willie couldn't stomach it. He couldn't take it. Emotionally, he wasn't ready to accept the fact that the Giants weren't ready to score, because in his mind, he knew what to do to win. He knew how to proceed to get that run in. In his mind, it was already done. You do this, you score.
I think
there's a professional on the field that can't do it that way. Willie doesn't understand that.
It was always interesting to me because he had the same thing that I noticed in Frank Robinson. Frank Robinson would watch a game that he was managing, and he would be upset that a guy would hold up at third when he clearly should have gone home,
Yeah.
or had the opportunity to make a play when he and didn't make the play. I mean, he expected every other ball, even though he was among the top 1% of all ball players, he expected every other ball player to be like him.
Yep. Ted Williams too.
Yeah. He expected every ball player. He walked out on the field, and he expected that the 8 guys that were going to be out there, because he was asked once, Willie Mays, who the best ball player he ever had seen was, and you know what he said, right?
No.
He said he was the best baseball player he'd ever seen. He said he was it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Now we got, we had, obviously, there was a relationship between Ken Griffey Jr. and
Right.
Willie Mays.
Barry Bonds and Willie Mays.
Yeah,
He-
Barry
he-
Bonds and Willie Mays. I mean, they were
he-
teammates, and
He adopted a lot of stars.
Griffey Jr. called Willie Mays Uncle Willie. And Griffey last night released a statement. I'll read it for you here. I'm at a loss for words. I'm devastated, heartbroken, numb. I've been lucky enough to know Willie since I was a little kid, and my appreciation only grew over time. From the stories, the videos, and then meeting him, he was a true giant off and on the field. A person I looked up to and respected, a friend, and someone I could call when I needed to talk, who always had time for me and my best interest in mind. I considered him an uncle, and to me, he'll always be the godfather of all center fielders. It's a nice statement from.
Well, he had a way of playing center field that was unlike anybody else that's ever patrolled the territory. One of the aspects of him that Reggie Jackson reminded me of in his comments in the Tim Kirchin article was that Willie Mays threw underhand a lot. He had an underhand snap that was an extraordinary thing to see. When I've talked about watching Willie Mays warm up before games, he would play catch in front of the dugout and pull the ball out of the air when it was thrown to him, and then this underhand snap that he would do, and he could underhand snap it from center field to second base. He could underhand snap it in playing catch with you in front of the dugout. He could do it when they warm up. They got the outfielders throwing the ball back and forth before the inning starts. I don't know where it came from, but this power that he had to just throw it underhand and snap it out there was an extraordinary thing to see. And nobody that I know does it or can do it. Try it at home. It can't be done. You can't throw it very far. You can't throw it with any accuracy. And he threw it with speed, accuracy, and with an extraordinary style. And it's just another element. He ran like nobody else. He hit like nobody else. And he could throw like nobody else. And one of the aspects of Willie that all center fielders have to have is his arm. He was renowned. Nobody ran on Willie Mays. Give it a shot. Prove it to yourself. Try to take second, or try to go second to first to third. Many have tried. And
Yeah,
he can probably tell on halfway to second base what you have in mind and throw you out before you get around second base.
he was different than anybody else. There was nobody out there that quite looked like him playing the game. There were guys Well, not many guys that could hit better, not many guys that could feel better, but he played in a time in New York baseball where it was the he was the center fielder in the center of the baseball universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk about Duke Snyder and you can talk about Mickey Mantle all you want, but I don't think and either of them, when it comes down to brass tacks, and I'm sure this is an argument that went on stoops in Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens.
At this moment.
Well, yeah, there's probably ghosts that are sitting on those stoops right now and arguing who was the best, because now the three of them are all gone.
And DiMaggio too.
Yeah, but I'm talking about those 50s.
Yeah.
You know, the Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Yeah, I mean certainly DiMaggio was in the mix too, and see, I never got to see DiMaggio play, so I don't know. At least I had a recollection of seeing Mickey. And I didn't get to see Snyder play because he was pretty much done by 62 when he came back with the Mets.
Yeah,
but I did get to see Willie play because Willie went, years past all of them.
And he was the youngest of the three.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Willie's last year was 73, where Mantle hung it up in 69 or 68, I forget. 68, maybe they had the day for him in 69. And obviously Duke was done in, he was sent back to the Mets in 62. And that was it.
He came out with the Dodgers and he played a little bit, but I don't think he ever played in Dodger Stadium. I think he was gone when they were still playing in the Coliseum.
Yeah, he was in the Coliseum. I don't think he played in Dodger Stadium either. Nor did he play in Shea Stadium, I don't think, except in old-timers games. And the one really cool thing, well, I mean, the Mets have done some really cool things. As almost everybody that follows baseball knows, is that Willie was at the end of his career, the Giants. Well, wait, before we go there, I want to ask you another question. Now, they started playing in a bandbox stadium over on 16th there.
Seal Stadium.
When they went out to Candlestick was an open stadium.
Yep.
And there was wind running all over the place. How much did that affect May's home run?
Probably took 100 off his total.
Yeah, because he had 660. And I could only imagine that until they enclosed Candlestick, which was what, 71, 72, something like that.
Even then, it wasn't a home run palace.
It never was a home run palace. That ball used to get up into the wind and move all over the place.
And they were crosswinds, so they were damaging to long drives.
So,
not to mention, it was a hellhole for outfielders because the wind was blowing the ball away from them.
Right.
Although you couldn't blow it away from Willie Mays, but you could try.
Yeah, he would. But yet here's a guy. Yeah, it tells you. I think it does tell you how good of a baseball player he was that you get. He won what, 24? How many MVPs did he win? 24 or something? I just think it's amazing.
He was an amazing Willie Mays.
That he was able to hit the amount of home runs he was able to hit in that stadium, in Candlestick Park. If he'd have played in a smaller bandbox, if he'd have played in a tinier stadium, if he'd played his whole career in Seal Stadium,
right,
he would have had 800 home runs.
And the Polo Grounds weren't much of a gift either for home run hitters.
No, except that you had that short porch. But I'm trying to remember if he didn't take much advantage of that. He was basically, if I'm remembering right, right center.
Left center and right center, according to who was it that said that? Could have been Johnny Bench.
Yeah, I think he was more in the gaps hitter. Because there was always that inviting, I don't know, 200 and whatever it was, porch.
And if they had a nice day game when it was sunny and not too blowy at Candlestick, Willie knew he could hit a couple that day. And he would.
What was it like as following him as a kid? Was he the rage of the neighborhood? Was he what everybody talked about at school?
Well, he was because the Giants were a new factor. They were brand new. They were a team without a lot of stars, but the stars were coming. Mays was the first. But then came Cepeda, then came McCubby, then came Marichal, then came all the power hitters that joined them, and a chance to go to the World Series against the Yankees in '62. Then came the three Alou brothers, and Willie was always a factor. Willie was the constant. You took him for granted in a way because if he batted third or fourth, it didn't make any difference. Here he was. A man to be dealt with, a danger on every pitch. It didn't matter who the pitcher was. Didn't matter what the conditions were. Willie had a way to overcome the moment with his skill and his daring do.
He was really, yeah. And then in 1972, as we've talked about, the Mets traded for him. And it was it was one of those days in New York that you'll never forget.
It's like the first time the Giants came back to play in New York.
Yeah, it was bigger. It was bigger because Willie was home.
He was ours again. Once again, he was the city. He belonged to New York.
Right. He was where everybody all the time thought he should have been. I mean, there was talk that Mrs. Payson tried to get him from the get-go.
And the fact that New York was the biggest stage in baseball was just where Willie belonged. He wasn't too big for it. He wasn't too small for it. He was just right size. He fit in perfectly. He was beloved by baseball fans from Podunk to New York.
Yeah, there was this he had the magnetism and the electricity that the city had.
Yep.
He had it, and he was humble, but he knew how to manage it. He knew how to do it. He knew how to handle his baseball career and his star career. Now, he had problems with his personal life, unfortunately. But and we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But his coming back to New York, the night he came back, you couldn't get a ticket to Shea. Usually you could get into Shea Stadium. Somehow, some way, you could get into Shea Stadium,
and you would know this.
And I would have firsthand authority. I remember it was raining that night, and it was like the Pope was there. It was, the really elite people used to have their own entrance. This was before, but the Diamond Club, the season ticket holder, would have their entrance. And it was the first time I ever saw a line at that entrance.
Wow.
Usually they got those paying customers through quick. And there were so many of them. And we were just walking around the ballpark
Standing room only.
looking for a way to get in. How are we going to get in to see this?
Did you get in?
Yes, we eventually got in, like in the 6th inning. And I'm trying to remember. So I think we saw one at bat. Yeah, I think we saw one at bat, but it was so loud that you could hear it drown out, because when it rains, the planes come in over Shea Stadium. And the cheers, when he was announced, drowned out the planes coming in over Shea Stadium. And he hit, and I didn't see the home run, but he hit a homer in his first game.
Of course.
And
The place
sure
must have come
enough,
apart. The place must have absolutely come apart.
they bat him lead off. So he was the first thing that came out of the dugout. And
What a way to start the game.
yeah, and the crowd reaction was incredible. You could hear it all over the place. What a moment it was for New York baseball to see Willie Mays stepping into the box in New York. Now, I don't know if the pitcher grooved him one, but he led off on a pitch, and it went over the left center field fence out to the area there behind the wall where there was really nothing, and the place was just unbelievable. Was just unbelievable. I only wish that I could have been there to see the home run.
One thing about
It was
Willie,
amazing.
he knew how to run the bases when an important home run had been hit. He had been there before. He knew how to do it.
And the great thing about Willie, too, I think, Michael, is that the way the public caught on to him. I want to play a clip here.
That Say Hey Kid is great.
Yeah. I want to play a clip here if I can find it. There it is. And all right, I'm thinking that you're going to be able to hear this. If you can't raise your hand. Okay. This is July 11th, 1954. It's a show called What's My Line?
I guess kind of low, that sort of thing, you know. And I do want to thank you for being a most interesting guest, and I hope you enjoyed your visit with us and What's My Line. It's nice to have you.
Thank you, Jane Mansfield.
Now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery guest. My friends on the panel would recognize our guest immediately, as you're about to. So we have provided them with blindfolds. Are they all in place, panel? Yes, sir. Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we dispense with preliminaries and get right down to the general questioning, which we will begin with Miss Dorothy Kilgether.
Are you accustomed to appearing before audiences?
Are you accustomed to appearing before audiences?
Yes. Are you in some form of the amusement industry? Yes. Is it show business rather than sports?
No. 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Parr. Are you a man or a woman?
You can't ask that.
That cannot be answered yes or no, Mr. Parr. I must ask you to rephrase the question. Are you masculine or feminine?
Wait, talk.
That cannot be answered in the negative or the affirmative, and I must ask you to rephrase the question. Is your natural voice soprano or tenor? I'm very persistent, you know. That can't be answered either. Well, are you a woman?
Oh?
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Benson.
You're not in the theatrical world. Are you part of the sports world? Yes. Are you part of the sport that is taking everybody?
Do you hear it okay?
These days, baseball.
Could be.
Are you a member of the National League? Are you part of the National League?
Yes.
You play for the National. Would you be my ball team, part of the Giant team?
Yes.
Well, sir, I think I've got you. Did you hit your 31st home run today? Do you play center field? Are you stay here with me?
I must say this. I think Will ought to get medals because we were hoping that we'd get you off into the field of entertainment and have him dancing, singing, you know. And that voice he was using was just wonderful. But doggone it, somebody came to sport.
How about
Mr. Parr, Mr. Parr, you can take it off now. That's it. This maid here has been identified.
Well, that's
Well-
fine. You can't get them all, you know.
Well, Willie, you certainly tried as hard to make this panel fumble as you do when you get up to bat. And that 31st.
I think they're looking for me. You know that?
Well, I get a hunch that when they find out there's somebody from sports around here in the summertime, they go for that baseball, and then they think, now, who is really up on those big headlines in the papers? And that's where you've been for so many days now. I'm afraid they're just naturally going to go looking for you.
You bet.
You did a wonderful job, though, and may we offer our congratulations because you're on the All-Star team and going to Cleveland for the game which is on Tuesday.
John,
And,
we've read in the paper a lot about how Willie is always yelling, "Say hey!" I'd like to hear just how he says it.
And let the hat fly off.
Do one for us, would you, Will?
No, it's just a phrase that I used when I first came up. You know, it's something that
Don't you use it anymore?
no, because I know everyone's name. Now the phrase I use, like I didn't know a person's name, I would start the phrase or would say hey or something like that. You know, well I know everybody's name now.
now you say John or say Paul or say Henry, huh?
No, I know everybody now.
Good deal. Well, you're doing better than I am because I still don't know most of the people that I should know, and I have to sort of fumble around. I think I'll use your technique, and you can use my old one where I used to
No, I
use
think
that.
I can use my own. That's all right.
Well, I don't want to in any way jeopardize your chances, but I think you know that all of us are hoping that you get up there and really struggle over the top of that 60 home run record.
It's a long ways up.
It's a long way, but if anybody can do it, you can. And thanks very much for being our guest. It was wonderful to have you in Washington.
Was that
That's
Arlene?
July 11th, 1954.
Was it Arlene Francis who got him?
Yeah, who was a big Giants fan.
Apparently, she knew who hit the home run that day.
Oh, yeah. Arlene Francis was one of the biggest Giants fans. Matter of fact, she lived in San Francisco. She moved to San Francisco after the Giants moved to San Francisco.
Wow. Tallulah Bankhead was a big Giants fan, and her comment was, "There's only two geniuses, Willie Mays and Willie Shakespeare."
She might have been right. She might have been right. But that's, I have a collection. It's interesting. I have a collection of these ball players that have appeared on What's My Line.
Right.
Because Goodson and Todman, who were the producers of the show, were huge baseball fans.
Aha.
So they would get whoever was, and they had the greatest thing in the world because they had three teams coming to town every summer.
Yep.
So they had like everybody on. They had Ted Williams. They had Ted Klaczewski. They had Emmett Ashford. I mean, it's just a list of baseball, football players too, but really the baseball players that came through town. I don't know what they paid them or what they gave them, but it was there was one every other week during the summer.
And we'll pick you up at Dempsey's.
And drop you right back off.
Drop you. Where are you going? Take me back to Dempsey's.
Take me back to Dempsey's. I want to go back to Dempsey's. Willie's greatest performance.
Well,
yeah, I'll let you go. What is there one game, one performance, one moment, one home run that sticks in your head?
Well, the day he hit 4 home runs in Milwaukee. Try that sometime. Pick your stadium. I don't care where you choose. You get to pick the stadium, but hitting 4 home runs anywhere. That was a county stadium back in those days, and it was the Milwaukee Braves. But he was up 4 times and poked 4 home runs. Actually, he was up 5 times. I think one was windblown. He was very close to hitting 5.
Yeah, that's April 30th, 1961. Did it in Milwaukee. And yeah, I mean, I still got to put the catch with all the offense.
Well, I know.
With all the offense and all the hitting and all of the clutch hits that he came up with. And listen, granted, I don't know them all.
Nobody does.
But the iconic, now Willie knew him. Willie probably knew every hit that he hit that scored a home, that made a difference. Matter of fact, he might have known every hit.
Well, he still knew how to play Red Shandies years after he retired.
Yeah. He, the catch, though, against Vic Wirtz in the Polo Grounds, it's one of those iconic moments of baseball.
Well, who has a center field that's 460 feet away?
The Mets and the Mets and the
Mets and the Giants.
Mets and the Giants. New York. Biggest city, biggest center field, right?
And the idea that you knew how to play a 460-foot center field fence is insane. How many times did the ball get hit over his head? How many times did the ball get hit past him? Not that often.
Yeah.
And there was a pasture out there. There was a whole other baseball field behind him. He knew he could go at full speed and not hit the fence.
Right. He knew he could go, and he had way enough room to slow down to slow his.
And he didn't appear to turn his head that much to see the ball over his left shoulder.
And people also forget a couple of other things about Willie Mays that people forget. He was the shot heard round the world on October 3rd, 1951. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. He was in the on-deck circle.
Wow.
So if they had gotten past Bobby Thompson, Ralph Branca would have had to face Willie Mays.
Yeah, facing Mays was not going to be a gift. That was a pretty magic moment. One thing about the catch, you're going to see it. It's probably available on Facebook in 12 places right now on your feed. But look how quickly he throws the ball back in. And
yeah,
so.
He
catches it and throws it in one motion from 460 feet away.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't even break stride.
No,
he doesn't. He just swings around, and the ball is in his throwing hand as he comes around, and he just rifles back.
Yep, instantly.
It's not There's no hesitation. There's no what do I do with this? There's no looking away. He knows when he's going this way, where he's going to send the ball that way.
To prevent anybody from saying, Willie's so far away, we can take a base. Nope, you can't.
Nope. Incredible. He hit. I'm just looking down some of the stuff. 73. He was in his last All-Star game. He hit his last home run off of Don Gullett at a game that I was at.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was the playoffs. No. His hit off of Rolly Fingers. I was at that game. I wasn't at the one off of Don Gullett. I was the one at where he got the hit in Game 2 of the World Series. Because I was at all the New York games, all of the 4 New York games for the World Series. People also forget, and this is people forget that, and this was always a bone of contention between me and baseball, that he and Mickey Mantle were banned from baseball.
For endorsements?
In 1979 by Bowie Kuhn, because they were still involved in baseball. Willie Mays had a yearly contract with the Mets, with the Mets, I think, still. And Willie and Mickey Mantle had a contract with the Yankees. Sorry, with the Yankees. And they took jobs when Atlantic City was new at the time. Atlantic City had just built casinos, promoting those casinos. And Kuhn suspended them from baseball. They didn't bet. They were just hosts at the casinos.
For a long time, Willie didn't work for the Giants, but finally, when the new management came in and they built their new ballpark downtown, one of the very first things they did was they hired Mays, McCovey, and Cepeda as paid ambassadors for the sport. They were at spring training, they were at home games, they were there for special events. They could be there at any time. Willie watched a lot of games from the press box. He was just there to be Willie Mays, and it was long overdue. But he worked for the Giants till the end of his life.
Yeah, so did Willie McCovey. Worked for him to the end of his life, and
Cepeda is still on the payroll.
Yeah. I don't know if baseball players today, Michael. I don't know if if baseball players today, because of the separation in class, because of the separation in money, because the separation in so much in our society, will ever touch the hearts of baseball fans the way that guys like Willie Mays, the way the guys like Willie McCovey, the way the guys like I'll go back and think of Ed Charles, because Ed Kranepool, who's still around, and I wouldn't put him in the course of a superstar, obviously, but these are people that were ball players of the people. And
the people made that decision, not a marketing decision.
Right. It wasn't a marketing department. It wasn't somebody saying, well, we got to sell Holy Bolies here or something. It was the people. It was the people who came out and said, we like this guy.
And there was something about those players, and I know Tom Seaver's on your list.
Yes.
when they were just doing their job, just Willie Mays coming to bat, standing in the batter's box, taking a couple swings, getting ready for the first pitch. What he did was thrilling. When he did nothing, it was thrilling. When he just stood there with the bat in that special way he held it with his pinky out, it was a thrill to watch him do his job, to watch him prepare to go to work, to watch him prepare for the pitch, to be ready in the batter's box, to be ready to play, to be ready to catch, to be ready to throw from center field. Everything he did was poetic and extraordinary and out of the ordinary. And the only guy that did it that way was Willie Mays. And it extended to every element of his game: running, throwing, hitting, whatever the case may be. His encyclopedic knowledge of where to play every player in the league. The story that was told yesterday was that Walter Alston was managing the All-Star team, and he said, "Willie, you know the hitters better than I do. Make up the lineup card for me, please." Which he did, based on who he had on the team. And he put himself to lead off because he said, "I figured I could get on base, and Hank Aaron and Duke Snyder, whoever else was hitting behind him, will get me in."
Wow.
And that was the Dodger manager. Believe me, they hated each other, but they had respect for one another.
I'll give you one more quick Willie Mays story before we wrap it up. When I was a young boy, and I think I've told you the story before, but it bears talking about today. On 88th, 89th, 90, I think it was 89th and 90th Street in Astoria Boulevard, there was a bar called Marguerite's. But on the lamps outside the bar, it said Mays on the lamps. And it was, in fact, Willie's bar.
Really?
With his ex-wife. I guess, I don't know how, because I guess they had a pretty contentious divorce. But and I remember as kids, we used to go down there thinking we'd see Willie Mays there. You know, we didn't know if divorce or this or that or the other thing, except that we knew that many of our parents had been divorced. But we used to ride down there on our bicycles and hang out, looking to see if Willie showed up.
Because where else would he be? He had to be there. It said Mays.
Yeah, it said Mays. So, and it was her place, and I believe he had been there a couple of times. I don't think it was his hangout, but it was Marguerite's, and we were convinced that if we stood there long enough, Willie Mays would show up, and we spent a lot of time parked in front of that place.
Willie got 10 hits when the Negro League stats were added to the Major League hits. And I thought, only 10? He was with the Birmingham Black Barons only for 10 hits. They brought him up that quickly. When he was 19 years old, he was playing for the Show in New York. That's a young man with a superstar's skills coming to New York to play with Snyder and Mantle and the pressure of Coogan's Bluff and the huge ballpark that he was supposed to patrol and the historic birthplace of Super Baseball, New York City. It was a big challenge for a 19-year-old kid. And to say that he was equal to it is easy to say now. But how many 19-year-olds can go to New York and play at that level and astound the masses and wow the crowds, and everybody who knew nothing about baseball or something about baseball could see that from everybody else in the game, he was different and separate and apart with his skills and his talent that were never to be matched and never to be seen again.
Well, he was Michael, and I know we'll get an argument, and you'll get an argument, I'll get an argument, because there's a lot of people, even sometimes myself, that really compares Roberto Clemente with Willie Mays. But I think, and it's probably because I'm much more familiar with Willie Mays, that this guy is the greatest player that ever lived.
Yep.
I know many conversations I had with Ron Fairley when we worked together with the Mariners.
Who did he pick?
Willie.
Yeah, of course. He played.
He put him ahead of Ruth.
Well,
I mean,
Roberto Clemente was an extraordinarily talented guy. Was Willie faster? I think so. Was Willie a better outfielder? Maybe. I think he probably could be. Was he a better hitter? Well, did he hit for power more than Roberto? Yes.
Yeah.
Did he hit for average? More home runs? Yes. More Golden Gloves? Yes. It's hard.
Yeah, the only place where I always thought that maybe Roberto might have had a little bit of an edge on Willie was arm strength.
Certainly his arm was remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wouldn't have been much of an edge. But again, it's probably hard to compare because, Willie is thrown it a whole different way. Roberto used to have that come over the top.
Yeah.
Throw a strike to home plate, where Willie would shoot it down from that side.
Even his throw after the catch was mostly sidearm.
Yeah. And I guess I guess it's just you know what? It was a beautiful life for Willie Mays. And not only a beautiful life for Willie Mays, but a beautiful life for all of those like you and I who were lucky enough to be alive at the same time he was and watch his gift.
See him play in his prime.
Yeah. It was a different America. It was a different world. And you could get into the ballpark for $1.50, $1.30 to see Willie Mays.
But the game hasn't changed. With all the elements that are different, the game still, you still got to hit the ball, you still got to catch the ball.
Yeah, so many other things to it now, though. There's so many different things, so many different components to it. But I'm glad I got to see him play. Absolutely. I'm glad you got to see him play, and I'm glad that he was something that bonded us from an early time.
Right.
I mean, how could two guys from Willie Mays' two cities not like each other?
It's a given.
I'll be interested to see what they do for him tomorrow night at Rickwood Field. That game that's being played in honor of the Negro Leagues.
Well, he wasn't there long. He was part of it, but he wasn't there long. Man, they called him up and said, "You got center field, brother."
Well, he was playing. He played in other leagues down there too. I mean, he was a known commodity.
He was with the Grays before the Birmingham Black Barons.
Yeah. There's a great shot that they have that I'm looking at of him as he's in the Polo Grounds and he's running center to right, and he's got his eye on a ball. And he's probably about 2 or 3 feet from the wall. The wall is lower than his number 24.
Yeah.
There's some guy who's in the front of the front row, and he's going to challenge Willie for this ball, it looks like.
Good luck, Butler.
And you know what? This guy better just sit down. Because he ain't getting it. Willie's got this ball in his bead, and he ain't letting it go.
Does he have his hat on?
He's got his hat on. Now, I'm going to see when I roll this for our goodbye song, if he actually winds up getting his hat off. Let's see. Nope, he holds his hat. Oh, that basket catch is so sweet.
Say hey, say Willie, say hey, swing it at the plate, say hey, say Willie, that jive kid is great. He runs the bases like a choo-choo train, swings around second like an aeroplane.
There goes his hat between second and third as he's going from first to home. Basket catch and boom. Basket catch and boom.
Center like you have jet shoes. The other batters get the Willie blues. Anything hit his way is out. Man, it just don't pay those guys to clout. Say hey, say Willie, say hey, swing it at the plate. Say hey, say Willie, that Giants kid is great.
Well, great one where he slides into home on Campanella on a single to short right field. Scores 2 runners, and then he says, "What the hell?
I'm coming too.
I'm coming too." And he slides into Campy, and Campy he's safe. And Campy's arguing with the umpire, and so's Jackie Robinson, and the umpire's saying,
Sorry,
I don't know, man.
Willie Mays. What are you going to do?
Willie Mays, man. What can you do? If you tagged him there, he probably was safe there. So just go back to your dugout. All right, Michael. Good hour, man.
Good hour. And goodbye to Willie Mays.
Goodbye to Willie Mays, man. He wasn't a kid in the world when I was growing up that didn't know who Willie Mays was.
Of course not.
He
was a baseball god.
He really was, man. All right, Michael, I'll catch up with you Friday if the Lord's willing the creek don't rise.
It'll be a freaky Friday. It can't be any freakier than today.
Yeah, today was a freaky day. But good show. Good show. Good memories of Mr. Willie Mays, number 24 for the Giants and the Mets. And one of the most appreciated baseball players, I think. Wasn't anybody who didn't appreciate Willie Mays.
No, it was his gifts were so extraordinary that you were amazed at what he was able to do.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. See you Friday, Michael. If the Lord's willing the creek don't rise. Peace, love, and Willie Mays.
What a wine. A fine wine.
See you. Thank you all for listening too. Appreciate it.